Hi everyone, welcome to our Insecure Season 5 Episode 3 review, recap. Welcome. Give us a few seconds for Samaria to join. All right, it looks like she's in. Hi. Welcome everybody. We're going to get started in a few seconds. Welcome. Drop down in the comments and give us your favorite moment of this episode. Hey girl.
Hey,
Make sure you tell us your favorite moment of the episode and your most shocking moment of this episode.
I know. Hey, Need. Hey,
Hey.
music group. Okay, I wanna know this because they had two different nicknames for the baby, so I want to know which nickname people prefer. If it's Eli or Ja.
Yeah, that was different. I've never heard Ja for Elijah.
Dare to be different. You can't be doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, that was unique. I'd say I like Ja. It's different.
I do too. Okay, I just sent it, so if you want to pin it,
Okay.
we can get started here shortly.
Okay.
Hey guys.
Welcome. All right. So for this, I guess, recap or chat, you said that you wanted to kind of go scene by scene.
Yeah, because I think it'll be easier, and we can say everything that we want to say about separate scenes.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think we need to talk about him like moving to San Francisco and that boring day. It's like, does he even know what he's doing anymore? But I would like to start with the delivery room scene. What were your thoughts on that?
Awkward. That the tension was so crazy when he first walked up. And I will say, I really felt for him in that moment, which, if you know me, you know that I'm not Team Lawrence. So for me to be saying that, it's a big deal. I really felt for him in that moment. The delivery scene was super awkward, very tense. I
Yeah.
did think that he had maybe some family there. It just kind of seemed like he walked up and he was the outsider, and the sister definitely didn't help.
No, and even Condola was like surprised to see him. It was like, "Oh, you here?"
Well, who told him then?
I think she did, but she probably didn't expect him to show up.
Which is kind of crazy because
Yeah.
he said he wanted to be involved. So,
Yeah, but it sounds like he sent like a keep me posted, and I guess that's something we could talk about later. But about the delivery scene, how did you feel about them naming the child without him? Because it seemed like they all agreed, but it's not all their like it's not their child. It's his and her. How did you feel about that?
and then I mean, and then you give him a family name, which I think is fine if everyone's in alignment. But it just kind of it's just another thorn. Like the situation is already tense. You kind of were acting like you didn't care if he was involved, and then he showed some interest. And
Mm-hmm.
then so you know that he would probably feel some type of way. So I was kind of shocked that she did that, knowing that he was like, hey, well, I do want to try to be involved.
Yeah.
To that, I would expect that if you don't know who the dad is or
Mm.
you have not heard from him whatsoever. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was a little shady. And then like the type of name, like not to say Mustafa isn't a nice name, but it's like
Okay.
it's a very like it stands out. So if you're gonna give the child a name that really stands out, I would like to be in agreement with you on that.
Or
Um,
if she was going to give the family name for the first name, she
mhm.
could be like, okay, maybe I'll let you pick the middle name. And then it sounded like she didn't even want to give the baby his
The
last.
last name,
Like, girl,
right?
you really tripping.
Chad said, "Who don't want that baby to walk?" No, I definitely think that that was a little shady. And then from what he was saying to Chad, he wanted to stay. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're definitely dropping some spoilers. So
Oh
go
yeah.
watch the episode.
Don't watch this if you haven't watched the episode yet.
Yeah, but it seemed like he wanted to spend the night because he said, like, now I'm spending the night here when I should be over there with him. So, I mean, I like Lawrence, so I'm really glad to hear you like saying, "Oh, I felt for him," because I'm usually Team Lawrence and you are not.
And I feel like even with I mean, not letting him spend the night, I feel like even that's a bit questionable just because you know that he wants to be involved. You know he's not going to hurt you or the baby.
Right.
In early days, like you need all hands on deck. And it would have been a perfect time for him to at least learn more or kind of get ahead of the curve knowing that he's going to be away. So she could have extended that olive branch, but she didn't.
Yeah, that's true. Was there anything else about the delivery scene besides the shady sister?
I mean, yeah, the shady sister, I'm just like, girl, you need to calm it down because you're just throwing gasoline on the fire unnecessarily. And I can't say that I was expecting her to check the sister because the sister is probably echoing a lot of what she's feeling and thinking, but she doesn't feel like maybe she could say it. So she's like, it's like the Beyonce and
Solange.
moment in the elevator where it's like, you know how I feel, but I'm gonna let you do the work.
Yeah, that's true. I will say it was nice to see Leela Rashawn because I haven't seen her in anything for a while, and I thought she was the perfect pick for Condola's mom because they kind of look similar. Um,
Mhm, they do.
so I liked that she was on there. All right, so the next scene was like the first doctor's appointment. Where
Okay, so I'll let you give your thoughts on
now
that.
I want to hear yours because you're a mom, so I'm just kind of
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I would say that scene is so relatable being a first-time parent because you're on pins and needles and you don't understand how babies lose weight and just everything that comes along with breastfeeding. And it was interesting how like Lawrence was trying to be involved and ask questions, but he didn't realize that the way he was asking the questions was kind of inadvertently taking jabs at Condola, and he hadn't been there to see any of it, to understand any of it.
yeah.
But yeah, the doctor was tripping.
He was like, bruh, okay. I would need you to chill because you are not adding comfort. Talk about ugly babies that you see all the time. Like, if my
Right.
baby's cute, let my baby be cute. I don't need to hear about other people. But
Right.
I do agree with you though. He was like, what's wrong with the milk? Okay, calm down. First of all, if something was wrong with it, like you're literally making her feel worse. And I don't think like that's helpful in this situation. So he has to learn how to like navigate that.
I will say though that maybe allowing him to be at the house to be on ground zero, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
he understand like the challenges that come along with those first few weeks of life. And so yeah, I love that scene. It was super relatable. And recently having gone through that myself, I'm like, oh yeah, this definitely hits home. Um, and it doesn't glamorize the process like yeah.
exactly. So like afterwards was when they were walking to the car and he was like, hey, I noticed the appointments are on these days. Can we make them on Friday so I could come down? And she was just like, oh, the doctors, which I understand. Sometimes you can't get in with these doctors. And then he's like, okay, is this how it's going to be all the time? You're making decisions and I'm just going to have to like go along with it. And she said, oh, you mean like I've always been doing or like I've been doing this whole time? So I don't know. I feel a way for both of them in this moment because I think what she wanted more was for him to initiate um like actively asking questions, but also he probably doesn't know what
Mhm.
to ask and he's not with this woman. He's probably trying not to be intrusive. So it's like he doesn't know what boundaries. So I get it for her wanting him to be more proactive, but I also get it for him not wanting to be.
And I think obviously they weren't together during the pregnancy, but I think for men, it can be very challenging because, they're not carrying the baby, they're not going through all the, emotional and physical changes. They're just observing and trying to be as helpful as possible. And then boom, a baby's here. And so, for them, it's, I think, more of a hard switch versus for us, we have that time to really reflect and understand the big change that's coming, and you feel that connection. So I felt for both of them in that moment. For Condola specifically, because she's kind of, yes, she may have her mom and sister, but it's all on her. And
Yeah.
so she feels like, hey, I've been doing this thing by myself, so
Hmm.
why switch my energy now that you seem to, want to be interested more.
Yeah, that's true. But I do think like she could have loosened the reins, especially when it came to like the baptism. That
Oh,
was so it's like you were about to get this baby baptized, and this man wasn't even gonna know. Like you were just
right.
have your sister, who that's Kyra, right? You were just gonna have your sister send him details. Like, so I'm like, what exactly did they talk about in this period? I know the baby came a little early, but it sounded like there was nothing finalized ever.
Well, yeah, it seemed like things were just kind of up in the air. And maybe once she found out, like, oh, he's moving to San Francisco, maybe she was shocked that he was even trying to be as involved as he was.
Yeah.
Had kind of like resolved to, okay, well, he's not going to be as involved. But now all of a sudden he wants to be. So it sounds like things are just kind of
Yeah.
as.
Like he didn't want to be involved. Like, I don't know. Keep me posted is very vague, and I can understand why she took it the way she took it. Like, keep me posted. Okay, what does that even mean? But for him, keep me posted probably meant like, hey, let me
Tell me.
know. I don't know. Like, I feel like she definitely could have communicated a lot more, because it gave him an opportunity, which it doesn't seem like he wanted, to like just isolate himself or separate himself from what was actually going on. And now she's probably feeling like, well, I don't have that like luxury. I can't not know when appointments are because
Yeah.
I have to actively like, I'm carrying the baby. So I need to know when all the appointments are. You don't have to be bothered pretty much.
And
Mhm.
I would even say with the whole like baptism thing, like to me, that was just a real unnecessary shady moment because something like that, you could have at least asked him. And then if he seemed uninterested, then you could have went on planning whatever you needed to with your family. But
Mhm.
I feel like she's taking little jabs, and I'm not saying that it's on purpose,
Yeah.
but maybe it's giving her some sense of like satisfaction of, well, you weren't there when I needed you to be there, so now that me and my family can be in control of things, that
Mhm.
you and you're gonna fall in line.
Yes. So I think the next scene was the baptism. If you're in here, let us know what you thought about this episode. I thought a lot happened. I'm team like I really like the character Loris, so I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. But let us know what you thought about the back and forth with him and Condola and them adjusting to new parenthood in the comments. But I think the next thing was the next thing the baptism
We
when
can talk
with their families. Yeah,
about.
showing up and when they said, "Oh yeah, he probably just needs a nap," and Lawrence is like, "Yeah, a nap sounds good right now," because it seemed like he was just trying to like.
Yeah.
I think that was good on him. He was constantly trying to ease the tension, trying to make Thanksgiving or holiday plans, and then it's like, "Oh yeah, like you're so," which I get, but dang, girl.
Yeah, and once again, that is a relatable moment. I think even for a couple who doesn't have that type of situation where they're not together, even couples who are together, that startup, newborn, infant phase is, challenging. It's a big life change. And as women, even when you do have help, the mother does take on more.
Yeah,
No one else can breastfeed but you. So there's just a lot that's going to come along with that. And so for her, like she's kind of keeping tabs of like, well, this
yeah.
is what I'm having to do and you have it easy. And she used that moment to basically say like, well, why are you complaining about or talking about naps? I should be the one talking about taking a nap. So,
Yeah, I like how they showed like it's more than Lawrence who's suffering in this moment. Like they showed, hey, his parents, like this is their first grandchild, so this is a big deal to them too. So I think sometimes when you're, the maternal figure and you're kind of holding back a child from the other side or the other
mhm.
parent, it's like you think you're just impacting that person, but it's like, man, this baby has grandparents who could love on him and like an uncle who is willing to give $5 or whatever. This baby has a whole other family that's willing to love him, and now withholding him from that as well.
Yeah. And I feel for Condola because just as a mom, you're entrusted with bringing this baby into the world safely and making sure you stay alive. And a lot is on you in that early time. And so it's hard to kind of relinquish control,
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, I entrust that the baby can be with the other side. So I definitely feel for her, especially in this situation where they weren't on good terms. She doesn't really know his parents. At the same time, though, girl, that's not an excuse for you to be acting like this.
Exactly. I'm going to read this comment. So it says, I love how they showed the complexities of co parenting. I feel like he feels bad for living a good life while Crayola, y'all refuse to call this woman by her name, while Crayola is struggling. And I wouldn't be surprised if he moves back home. Yes, well, we kind of know from some previews that came up
Mhm.
that maybe he does move back to LA, but I can see why now because they definitely showed the complexities of it. Um, so I think you wanted to talk about the baby shower, Tiffany and Derek's baby shower, which shout
Oh,
out.
you mean the first birthday?
Oh yeah, that's right. It's the first birthday. Girl, the baby been here.
Yeah, the first birthday.
Yes. So what did you think about everything that happened?
Well, I think the elephant is that Issa and Molly weren't there.
I
With
think I think it was just for people with kids and Kelly.
Yeah, but I would expect that y'all are like such a tight group of friends
Yeah.
that you'd be at the first birthday, but I'm assuming that they may have done that just to not have, I guess, the confrontation of Issa, Condola, or Crayola and Lawrence. So I could appreciate that. Um, yeah, that scene, I will say I loved how Derek tried to talk some sense into him and that he was I don't think he did the best job because I think he should have tried to meet him a bit more in the middle. I think it would hit home a little bit more, but he at least tried, even if it was just to make sure that a blow up didn't happen at his daughter's first birthday. Uh,
Yeah. Laura said, "Where the boxes at? Ain't no boxes, bro." But what did you think about Lawrence? Like, so it seemed like everything was going great.
mhm.
He's like, "Oh, I'll take the baby to feed the baby." He came in with the baby on him, and then the fight was because Lawrence gave the baby solids. But
Yes,
you say what you thought about that first.
yeah. So, as a mom, I get it. Like that can be frustrating if you feel like you have a plan of how you think things should go, and obviously there are certain risks with introducing foods and all that stuff. But I do think that she she was wrong. Like it could have just been a hey, don't give the baby solids going forward because of whatever insert reason. This is why. And on big things like this, I'd appreciate if you'd ask me or at least tell me. And
Mm,
then leave it at that. Like, girl, when you're at a party, and two, he is the dad, like he has the child's best interest at heart. The way she reacted just felt very emotional.
yeah.
Um, which I get it, but I think you just have to think of people's motive and intent in situations like that before you just jump to being like, well, give me my baby back.
And that's the thing, give me my baby back. Like, hold on, girl. I too. Also, it's not like he was being negligent. Like he said, oh, the doctor said after 4 months we can do this. So it sounds like he's been paying attention to what was going on. And if you're like, I think it's something that she could have communicated, but even if you're not thinking like, oh, I need to communicate it, like it's a good opportunity to check it in that moment. And now he knows. Paul was saying you learned not to do that early on. Lawrence never had that chance.
And that's so true, because he hasn't been as involved or in the nitty gritty. They don't live together. Like his learning curve is very steep. So yeah, he just hasn't had that chance. So yeah, I understood where she was coming from because I think I'll always identify with
Yeah.
in me, but I think it was a bit of an overreaction causing a scene unnecessarily.
Yeah, and he said something about, oh, she's trying to make me look like a bad father when Derek pulled him to the side. And I don't think that was the intention. This person tweeted today, and he was like, "Oh, this is an example." I shared it to our stories, but he was saying this was an example of maternal gatekeeping, and he said like it can be intentional, but sometimes it's like not, and it just kind of happens. So I do think she was being really controlling, but I don't think it was, "Oh, I'm going to make you look like a bad father." I think she's just being overly protective, and she's trying to protect him from someone who she does not need to protect him from.
Right. Yeah. And it's food and like girl.
And he wasn't allergic to, like he said, I did it and nothing happened. Like we're here now.
He tried to check like shut it down, but she was
Yes. I was like, okay, Lawrence.
you
I
just
was like a bit. Okay. I think they did a good job, a decent job showing like how his life can still be normal while hers is completely different because she's this ambitious woman, she's a go-getter, and she's in these sweats. She's not like looking as put together as she was in season 4, and place isn't looking like as tight.
yeah,
So I think they did a good job of
new mom, those new moms.
right. The
Yeah.
one thing was like when he went to sleep, she went to sleep, and they woke up at the same time. I was like, that's not happening with a baby. She would have been up a few times,
Hmm.
but his life didn't change as much. Like he could still date, and that's not something she could.
Yeah, and I think also it's kind of a part of one of the consequences of bringing a child into the world with someone that you're not with physically. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
was in the home or at least in the same city, he would have had a much bigger life change because he would be there to help or
Yeah.
feel more confident to be like, okay, dude, you got the bottles, you got this or that. All right, I'm going to go catch up on my rest or do some work, do what I need to do. So just the situation, the way it's structured,
Mm-hmm.
has allowed for him to maintain his old life. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's like buying cribs and cutesy stuff,
So
but
horrible.
yeah, but that's not the
That's parenting. That's play parenting. Okay, that is.
that's,
You might as well have Barbies up in there because that's not real life. Rosalind said, yes, her life completely stopped, and that actually broke my heart. Same. She couldn't even go get a massage because he canceled that one night. How did you feel about him canceling? Like, oh, I'm not gonna make it.
I think everything is amplified in this situation because
Mm,
he's not there, they're not together, they're already on, just a rocky street and obviously, they're showing the baby progressing. The baby's like a couple months old, but it's a long time. So she's like tapped out. So I don't even think that it was the canceling. It's her just being like sleep deprived and just everything that comes along with that, struggling with breastfeeding. She's tapped out and he canceled.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand that he was tired. I wanted him to like still try to make it, but also I think that that happens even if you are in the same household.
Hmm.
Sometimes like one parent is just gonna be like, "Hey, I can't do what I thought I would be able to do." But you're right, it is amplified.
Oh yeah. Like I definitely have those mornings where I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to get up. I can't do it. I'm
Right.
tired.
Okay, so we have five-ish minutes left. We have to talk about the big blow up scene because all right, so he sends a text the night before and he's like, hey, my flight gets in at this time. Can I still have him overnight? And she's like, sure. Then he shows up, baby's crying, and he takes the baby, tries to comfort the baby.
Mm.
And she's like, oh, just give him to me. I can calm him down faster. Which it didn't seem like she could. Just to be honest.
Because he was crying when he walked in. Girl, bye.
Exactly. Like, you can't tell this man, oh, yeah, you can have him overnight. And then he comes expecting that. He had the car seat ready, and then you're just like, I don't think this is a good idea. That hurt me to see.
To me, that was, I don't want to say worse, but knowing kind of like all of what he was kind of jumping through to have the baby overnight,
Yes.
I felt for him more in that moment than I did, only because the sister was there to be like, hey, you can go get your massage.
Mm-hmm.
When he canceled on her. That scene just really made me feel like, see, this is why y'all need to get things organized and documented and have some type of structure about what this relationship is going to be.
Yeah.
You've already tried to do it your way by, I guess, just negotiating with each other. But if y'all aren't going to be together like long term, y'all need to, oh, we don't like condolences.
Somebody called her Crayola earlier. You missed it.
But yeah, like in that scene, it just made me feel like y'all need to have some structure to this, and it needs to be laid out by a third party mediator, family court. I don't know. But this whole like, oh, you can have the baby, but no, you can't. Babies are going to cry. They're going to be irritable. She could have at least,
environment not like
right. She could have said, okay, we'll take him. Maybe he'll calm down once he gets in the car, get him some milk. And then, okay, once you're there, if he's still fussing like 2 hours later, then maybe I'll come over and, just kind of soothe him, or then we'll go from there. But to be like, oh, no, you can't take him at all. Like,
yeah. Like, I came from San Francisco for this, like it's like, when you're like setting to eat something and you go in the fridge and it's not there because somebody else ate it. Like, that times 10 is what I imagine that feels like, because he was really preparing for it. And for her to just like snatch it back so quickly and then be like, oh, I don't trust you. It's like, bruh, I'm not a stranger. Like, I am this little boy's father.
But I'm glad she was honest. So now we're finally getting to kind of the root of why she's doing some of this acting out. She doesn't trust him. There's a lot of emotion built up there. And I feel like I told you at the end of last season that when she was like, oh, well, I'll do what I need to do with this baby on my own, whether you want to be involved or not. And she was talking all that. I'm like, okay, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he?
Let's see if you still feel that same way. I feel like if she still felt the same way, she wouldn't be doing the most in terms of like trying to control when he can and can't see his own child.
But I will say, and it was such an interesting episode, because even though we don't like Crayola condolences, it's like he also crossed the line a few times. Like, oh, before you blew my life up, hold on. She just decided to have a baby that you provided her with. Like, calm down. Let's not. I know you're upset, but let the issue be the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you live far away, and that, obviously is not working, but you can't put all the blame on her. And then this is interesting, because he was like, I'm gonna get my son no matter what. It's always interesting when men do that, because it's like, how are you gonna like physically provide all the things that this baby needs? Like, you can't, I love Florence. So I was like, well, you can't be doing that.
Well, when he said that, I didn't take it literal. I thought he just meant, I'm going to make it to where you can't be in full control of when I can see my son or not. Meaning, I'm going to have him at my designated times. I'm going to, have access to my son. And you like be all finicky and flaky. That's what I took it as, not that he was going to be the full custodial parent. Like,
I took it as fighting words. I was like, oh,
really?
I'm I should have been Condola in that moment. Oh, what? Like she said, what did you just say to me? So that's how I felt. I felt like he was coming for her neck and making like more severe threats than what you obviously gave him the benefit of the doubt for. And I didn't like that at all. So yeah, they were both pretty shady in that moment.
So Stephanie, or I'm not sure if that's her name, Seth, right? He wanted to have someone else help to make sure she doesn't control everything. Yeah, that's just what I took it as, like, hey, we'll just finally go to court and get this thing settled.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's 50-50, 70-30, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
But you definitely can't be pulling what you just did.
At all. Yeah, that was nonsense.
And I know we're basically at the time, but that last scene, I really felt for her when I think she called him, and she was just
He
looking.
called her,
Oh,
which
he
shout out
called
to Lawrence for making things right.
her. Okay, yeah, I really felt for her because she's in deep in those new mom streets, and she's burnt out. And even though I'm sure she wants what's best for her son, like if you have the father there trying to help any little bit, like that's giving you relief so that you can be the best, version of a mom for your child that you can be. So I really hope that she takes him up on, what he is able to do, because this whole idea of like, oh, I can do it alone, and like, girl,
Yeah.
that's not it.
She got to loosen the reins quite a bit and stop that maternal gatekeeping. I'm hopeful for them. I like that they had the conversation at the end when they were much calmer.
Hmm.
I wish he wasn't all the way in San Francisco when they did that. Like he said, "Oh, get the f out your house. I'm gonna leave and go to San Francisco." Like, okay, that's it's a little bit hasty, but the turbulence or whatever really
Shut him up.
okay. He was really shaken up by that, and I wish them the best. I can't wait to see next week. I almost want next week to be another Lawrence episode because I'm like, ooh,
Oh,
happens. But I
you know,
think Issa, Molly, and Nathan and them.
yeah, I do wonder though. So what's your prediction as far as Lawrence and Condola?
You know what I fear? It's not
What?
a prediction. It's what I fear. I fear that they're going to end up together in the end. Um,
Clutching my pearls.
I feel like they're gonna make up. We know he's not gonna end up with Issa, and that's the thing. Like I love Lawrence, and I love the growth of that character over 4 seasons, now 5. But I don't want him with Issa. I don't like them together right now. I think they might put him with Condola. They didn't have any serious issues besides
No, they didn't.
and wanting something permanent. So it's like if they could make it work. So that's something that I fear after seeing how this episode ended.
Yeah, I'd agree that I don't remember them having any real issues as to why they weren't together. Nothing memorable. Um, and I can say that I hope that they figure out a way to work it out.
Mm.
And not just as like co-parents, but potentially like a relationship where they can raise this son together. And I think just going through this whole process, maybe Condola, her eyes may have been more open to like, hey, if I can have help and it can work, why not?
He's great. He's really trying to make it work. He obviously doesn't know what he's doing, but
Yeah.
that's just kind of the name of the game.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for this week. We will be back next week to talk about episode 4. You can catch our latest podcast episode on our YouTube channel. Link is in our bio and also on any podcast platforms. Our last episode was called What Do You Bring to the Table? Where we explored this like infamous internet question with one of our favorite podcast hosts at My Husband Would Never. So definitely check that out. And we will see you guys next week.
Yes. All right. We'll see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.